So I'm going to just start by the presentation. Good morning, everyone. So welcome and thanks for joining this webinar on Purasomes, which are our secretomes coming from bovine colostrum. Over the course of this next 35-40 minutes, I'm going to share with you what I've learned, my experiences, and some of the science and the thoughts that we've had. I've been using it since it was at inception, just over 2.5 years now from it. I do represent the company as their KOL and director. So firstly, wherever you go, it's exosomes everywhere. It's plastered. We've come from several congresses, and there are so many places, so many companies selling exosomes. So whether you like it or not, it's there. It's come, and it's like come with like a fluster. Why the importance? Okay, so one of the things is that if you look at something like botulinum toxin, which has been around for so many years, the number of studies on botulinum toxin is eclipsed by something like 10,000 more for exosomes, which have come so much late into the market. Now, I admit that the studies on exosomes are not all just for skin and aesthetics, because there is so much more potential with this in terms of as a carrier, as a cancer treatment, as well as for aesthetics. Why is that important is that I think it's really important to understand what they are, and in order for you to then know what they're capable of doing, and then how you would be able to sort of put it into your treatment portfolio, etc. So really, over this last year, 2 years or so, the trend that's been happening is this focus onto regenerative medicine. Okay, people are wanting, demanding more natural results. And how this is achieved is by using your own cells. So the ability to regrow or repair or rejuvenate what's already there without actually having to add something from the external. That's where the focus is there. And this is the birth of regenerative medicine. So it's the emergence of what we have, what we know as conventional aesthetics with our toxins and our fillers and our devices, etc. And this whole thing regenerative. So it's not there to replace conventional aesthetics. It's to work in synchrony with one another in order to deliver more natural regenerative results. And the other real importance with this is that once you've achieved your results, then they're there to stay. You know, you're not dependent on the substance breaking down or being metabolized, no, because this is aiming at your tissues, your cells. And so let's find out a little bit more about how Purasomes can achieve that. Okay, so firstly, is this something new? No. If you look at the Spanish during the Inquisition time, they've been searching for the fountain of youth for thousands and thousands of years. And there's been lots of stories about people swimming in pools of water thinking it was the elixir for youth. Also known to have Cleopatra to bathe in donkey's milk in ancient Egypt, to know that it was for a youthful skin. So it's not that the concept is not new. The concept is age old. We've always wanted to live younger, stay young, live longer. And it's now the focus is on how does science support that. This is a landmark study which was published in Nature. And it's a system of what we call parabiosis, which is parallel living. Essentially, what they did was they sutured two mice together, an old mouse and a young mouse. The circulation was sutured together. And what they found was that the signs of aging in the old mouse was reversed. So it became more active, became more less lean, more hair. And conversely, the young mouse started showing signs of older age. So this is your first sort of example of how exosomes work. And this was originally the study was done in the 60s, but it was not until 2014 when Nature published it that the real interest on this thing came back again. And it's no surprise that mainstream media got onto the back of this. And what they've done here is that they actually found out what was the specific interleukin or the cytokines which was responsible for this, and this was your IL-11. And there's now more studies going on IL-11 and how it can actually maybe delay or reverse the signs of aging. And it would also not surprise you that the last Nobel Prize winner was also the person who was responsible for studies on interleukin 11. But let's look a little bit about the history of exosomes. Okay, it's been around for a long time, from the 1950s, 60s, and it was initially considered as just trash, dust. So not of any use. And it was only in the late early 2000 they found that it could functionally transport cargo from one cell to another. And if you look at the top right-hand corner, you can see the cluster of interest that's happened then. There was specific societies which were formed. And at the bottom, you can see specific peer-reviewed journals for extracellular vesicles. So it's a story of what we considered as trash now becoming treasure. And it's all just very, very recent. So in order to understand an exosome, imagine a large stadium, football field, or cricket, whatever you want to do. A tiny speck on the stadium is what an exosome is. So in terms of a size of an exosome, if this is a large cell, that's how small the exosome is within that cell to conceptualize it. Another way to conceptualize it is a single strand of human hair, which is about 100,000 nanometers, whereas an exosome is about 100,000 times smaller. Why is that important? Because it helps in traversing through layers and skin in order for it to work quickly. The smaller they are, they're able to go through, penetrate quickly. But the other thing is when we start to look at more studies and all of that on exosomes, we are confused because there's so many terms on it: exosomes, secretomes, hybridosomes, liposomes. So it is a little bit of a minefield, not just for us as physicians or practitioners, but even for patients, because there's so much, what's going on? What are all these things? So it's quite important to understand what they are, so that you can then explain to your patient what they are and they understand, and then the results are going to be based on that. So I will focus on that for the next couple of slides. So let's see how it works. So if you imagine two cells, one is a donor cell. So the exosome gets into the pink part and it collects all the RNA, proteins, cytokines, microRNA, and then it traverses to the periphery of the cell. And then through a process of outside the cell, exocytosis, it gets released into the ECF, and then goes and attaches to the recipient cell. Once it's attached, it changes the behavior of the recipient cell. So this is how exosomes work. Okay, this is clearly all exosomes work. So how we shortcut this is that when you treat someone with exosomes or secretomes, you are bypassing this whole release from a donor cell. You're actually delivering it, which is then available for the recipient cell to start to make whatever changes you want it to work. So imagine what we do with a data stick. That is precisely what an exosome is. An exosome, or a data stick, sorry, is only worth the data it contains. An empty one is not going to give you anything. Whereas if it's full of information, then it could be very valuable, and you're taking that from one computer to another or one area to another. So that's what an exosome is. It is a data transfer of microRNA, cytokines, proteins, growth factors. So without any data, an exosome by itself is valueless. It's only the data that is important. And that nicely brings me to why the exosomes are important, as in what the source of that is coming from. So let's talk a little bit about what we call secretomes, okay? So you have the exosomes, which I've just explained, but secretomes are also bioactive molecules which are secreted by cells. And in this particular case, it's the bovine mammary epithelial cells from the cow's udder, which contains a little more. So they contain more growth factors, more cytokines and peptides. And this is what the whole collection is, secretomes, of which exosomes are a part of it. As I said, the source, why are we using bovine colostrum? Well, it's the first milk. We all know the power of colostrum. Any woman who's given birth knows the power of colostrum and the rich source of nutrients that it has. And this is packed with regenerative and antimicrobial agents, and it's actually designed for the growth of the young calf, in order for boosting its immunity, nutrition, and all of that things, etc. In addition to it, it has natural components which helps with anti-inflammation, skin rejuvenation, wound healing, and I will show you subsequently with some of our science studies that we have, which has shown some of this. So, as I was saying earlier, it's not to confuse. So exosomes are part of the whole secretome. So secretomes are a broad term which contains all the bioactive substances which are secreted. Whereas exosomes, like we said, are those small particles which are contained within it. Okay. The mode of release is completely different. Secretomes are secreted by the mammary epithelial cells, whereas exosomes is the endocytic pathway, like I showed you earlier. Exosomes have specialized messengers, whereas secretomes have the full communication toolkit on it. However, one of the things we need to differentiate this is that they're not stem cells. Okay, a stem cell has an ability to divide, and it will make identical copies of itself, and thereby it will just sort of propagate more. Whereas exosomes are not full, complete cells, therefore it doesn't have a nucleus, so it's not going to divide. Therefore, there's no risk of tumor, and there's no vascular occlusion risk with any exosomes. This is the most important thing that I can tell you. Tomorrow, when you are attending another webinar or anything else, the first question you really need to talk about is the source of the exosomes. Any exosome is only as good as the source that it's coming from. So what are the sources? We have human sources, which is not used in UK nor in Europe, because it's hasn't got license, neither is it unethical, neither is it ethical. Then there's plant sources, cow's milk, and then there's also animal tissues, etc. that we have. Now, yes, plant sources are suitable for vegans. However, when studies have been done, they've demonstrated that the sizes of the exosomes are very varied in the plant source. They're not the small nanovesicles that you get in any living tissue that you have, such as humans or in milk. The cow's milk, we've been consuming cow's milk for thousands of years. We know the potency, the power of it. It contains more than 250 biologically active elements. It's one of the richest source of growth factors with cytokines and naturally occurring antimicrobials. All of that is there. Some of the newer sources are coming from animal tissue, but it doesn't have the same history of the cow's milk. If you remember what I said to you about the source being the most important thing, because if you want to just collect exosome, you can collect that from anything. It's there in our saliva, in our urine, or from any living tissue. But if you can understand how you can regulate the source, how safe is the source, then that's the most important thing. So let me start showing you some of my pictures now. So this is a patient of mine who came in just to have tired skin to renew. And she had 3 sessions of microneedling with exosomes. And you can see how we managed to improve the quality of her skin as well as her pigmentation improved. Another patient who normally comes to me just to have toxins, but wanted to have something much more natural and longer lasting. So what I wanted to show you here was that if you look at both those pictures, both the crow's feet as well as the forehead lines, she hasn't had toxin. She's only had improvement of her skin with exosomes, with microneedling. And we haven't gotten rid of anything, but we've managed to diminish those lines. So basically, I'm trying to say that you can still have toxins, but you may need less amounts, or by just purely improving the quality of the skin, that the frequency of toxins, etc., may not be as the short intervals as need be. Another patient of mine, he was a young person when we first started this, and it was for acne. Um, he was supposed to start himself on isotretinoin, but the mum was quite reluctant because he was coming to his exams. So we said, we're going to try some exosome treatment with microneedling. Now, of course, I haven't cured it, but you can see the improvement that we've managed to achieve in just 3 months, and it helped with his confidence as well. One of the other things is that when you treat this early on, you're decreasing the propensity for him to develop acne scars later. So looking at it closely, you can see the progression from January to March. And then when we looked at it again in August, he still showed the improvement and changes which were still present. This is how one of the ways it works on treating active acne is by decreasing the inflammation. And this is from all the anti-inflammatory cytokines which are present. And you can clearly see here, the top and bottom pictures, how the inflammations come down quite a lot with the treatment. Again, the same thing. And this is from January to August, and you can see the inflammation has come down a fair bit. Closely, the comedones are also less angry or less inflamed. More pictures there. So what are the benefits of these on the skin? On the skin, you can see that, okay, it is a potent stimulation of collagen, which is what we all do, which is what we look for. In addition to it, because of the cytokines present, it has anti-inflammatory action. It's capable of making new blood vessels. It also has property to decrease your melanin production and helps with tissue thickness and tissue regeneration. However, they're not all the same. So we spoke about the sources. The next important thing is on how they're characterized, okay? So we already know that the colostrum is a powerhouse, okay? It has all of those growth factors, a lot of immune factors, lots of nutritional factors. I'm not going to list all of them. It's there in the slide. So it's got all this, and it's how we can harness this and use this for our product or for the skin. Presence of growth factors are important, and some of these growth factors play a key role in cell proliferation, in anti-inflammatory, and also for cell migration and survival. So you can see all of these things that are present in the colostrum. So the farms are they're organic farms based in Sicily, and the cattle are looked after very well. There's a veterinary doctor present on site every day. And essentially, the colostrum is collected during parturition and it is frozen immediately. Then the next 24 to 48 hours, this colostrum is transported to the factory within Sicily itself. And then when you receive it, it's thawed. Once it's thawed, the first step it goes through is what we call the cross-flow filtration. The filtration removes all the macromolecules and anything that we don't want. The first filtration is by size. So all the sizes, anything above 200 nanometers is taken off. Then it goes through a second step of filtration, and this is based on molecular weight. And here's where we remove lactose and all of the other components as well. So you then have these small pellets that you get after the filtration, which is then it goes through a vigorous set of ultracentrifugation for 48 to 72 hours again. And this ultracentrifugation, differential ultracentrifugation, is the gold standard for characterization of exosomes. So these are some of the questions you really need to ask when people tell you about exosomes or, to buy our exosomes, etc. Once this is done, you have your vial, and then into the vial we add HA and 23 amino acids, etc. And then you have your end product that you are ready to use, which doesn't need to be refrigerated. It can be stored at room temperature. So there are four. We have two for skin. Nutri-Complex is got the highest amount of HA. Then you have the Skin Glow to specifically target things like pigmentation. You have the Hair and Scalp Complex, more specifically for usage in hair. And then, of course, a new one, which is for the intimate area as well. How this is possible is by Dermaroma's patented technology called Amplex. Now, Amplex is it's actually from the colostrum itself. And what they do is they take the colostrum, and parts of the colostrum is then used to create this medium from which you can actually store all these exosomes. So there's not, you don't need to put things like your fetal bovine serum, etc., from it. And that's the compound, the Amplex, which is there in all the products from Dermaroma containing colostrum and the growth factors from it. So I've already mentioned that there are organic farms. And in addition to this, the farms in Sicily are regulated by World Organization of Animal Health. And what that means is that they put a risk score for what is the risk for transmission of things like BSE, etc. And this is at the least. So their lowest score is the negligible, and this is how all the, not just this farm, but all the farms in Sicily, the score or the risk for BSE is negligible. In addition to that, the cows are also tested for TB and brucellosis every month. And also the end product has also got an assay. We test that for contamination to make sure it's viral or bacterial free. So it's a robust process for characterization of the product before it actually reaches the vial. Some of the growth factors that are present in the colostrum are listed, and with each of them, I'm not going to list each of them out, but you can know the potency of each of these growth factors, what they're capable of doing in each cell. Interleukins are pivotal, are paramount in terms of regulation of inflammation, and you can see the list of all the interleukins which are there. And there are also studies which show on how the potency of these interleukins work at in ex vivo cells when looked at and studied. Platelet-derived growth factors is important for creating new blood vessels, and how they do this is by stimulate what's called pericytes, and these pericytes help with forming new. Why are new blood vessels important is that it's important for tissue and wound healing, and I'll show you some clinical cases on how tissue and wound healing happened with just topical application of Purasomes. Now, before we go into some of the studies, I want to show you something here where this is studies based on just colostrum, not exosomes, but just colostrum. And you can see on the right-hand side, a systematic review which was done when they looked at several studies, of which they isolated 28, sorry. And on the left-hand side, I have listed a few, which shows the highest level of evidence on just topical application of colostrum alone. Not exosomes, but just colostrum alone, on how it helps with proliferation, skin healing, wound healing, tissue healing, etc. So let's differentiate this from skin boosters and biostimulators, etc. So firstly, skin boosters, vast majority contain HA, and that's it. So it's very good for hydration, lifting, but it breaks down. HA in our body is meant to break down. It's never going to last forever. It's just a couple of months. Things like polynucleotides, etc., which I'm sure you all use very much, and it's a potent collagen stimulator, no doubt, and it works very well. But when you compare that to the secretomes, it is actually that secretomes is a larger umbrella. So because here we stimulate collagen. In addition to that, we also have other things that you can do to help with things like pigmentation, specifically also for hair. And it has all of the things that I listed earlier on how specifically it works at the cellular level to improve skin thickness, hair growth, fine lines, decreasing your melanin, etc. So secretomes is the larger umbrella, of which polynucleotides is just like a small element of it, which is important for stimulating collagen itself. More pictures. This is a patient of mine who had, again, blemishes and tight skin. So again, she had just three sessions of Purasomes, microneedled, and you can see how we've managed to improve and the gradient of her skin. I mean, here, what was really remarkable was how her skin texture really improved with just that. And you can see more closely, particularly the perioral area also improved with just Purasomes microneedling. Another patient of mine whose main complaint was just the under eye area, nothing else. I thought she was a good candidate to have surgery, but she didn't want to have surgery. So we just did Purasomes. Now, I didn't cure her condition, but she was happy with what we achieved with just 3 sessions of the Purasomes. I wanted to demonstrate this here is, again, this is not fantastic results, but if you focus here on the glabella complex, you can see those lines are diminished. They haven't gone off. She's in a patient in her 70s and came to me originally for having some toxins. And if I did do toxins, she would have had to keep coming back to me every 3 months or 4 months or whatever it is. But this diminishing of her lines was just by improving the quality of the skin. And the remarkable thing here is that this is there for her. As long as her skin health is maintained, it does not want to wear off in 3 months. I'm just going to run through some more pictures. So here are all of these are done with microneedling onto the skin. And it's not just my pictures. I've received this from different parts of the world. So remove some of the bias in it as well. A scar, it helps with scar healing and sometimes even keloid in addition to other treatments. It helps. And you can see that here. This is just a little demonstration on how I do. And I wanted to show you this purely because this is what I use as the endpoint. Punctate bleeding allows me to know that this is in the papillary dermis. It doesn't really matter whether you use a pen or derma roller or stamp. You can use whichever you want. But punctate bleeding tells you that the layer of microneedling, the depth of microneedling can be assessed based on that. More results. And this is from Turkey. You can see some of these results. I will just go through some of these pictures quite quickly. You can see. This is again my patient where we looked at, her actual age was 43, her skin age was 43 prior to treatment. But look what we did. With just 3 sessions, we brought her vascularity down, we improved her lines, and I've shown you the other picture before, and that allowed us to bring her skin age down as well with just doing 3 sessions of microneedling with exosomes. Similarly, the same patient here, another patient whose skin age was higher. And again, we've managed to bring her skin age down by improving her spots, texture, pores, etc. down. So let's quickly look at some of the science, yes? So this is a cell. If you take a dermal fibroblast, and if you look at the black boxes with the green lines, this measures the ROS levels. ROS is like a reactive oxygen species. Higher the levels, more the cellular damage. So you can see the one with its bottom right, which is the colostrum exosomes, has the least amount of ROS levels. It means that the cellular damage is completely in check when it's exposed, when the cell line is exposed to colostrum exosomes. Even more with just the milk exosomes, and the top ones are controlled. Another one, again, here we take a fibroblast and we look at proliferation of the fibroblast. And you can see the fibroblast proliferation is maximum when that tissue is exposed to colostrum exosomes. And these are all published and available to you. So I told you about all those PDGF, etc. Now this shows you like how it works. This is a patient who had a traumatic amputation of his finger. I think it was in Mexico. And he just applied topical application of the exosomes. And you can see within 4 sessions how that improved, almost grows back his new finger. The columns are a scratch test. So this is a tissue cell. And here we do a scratch. And you can look at what happens to the scratch as it heals over 96 hours. The left-hand column is natural healing. The right-hand column is when you apply Purasomes into it. So within first 24 hours itself, you almost see almost full healing. So it really speeds up your natural healing process. And that's what's the magic or the capacity of these Purasomes can be. Another picture, also industrial injury for the finger, and you can see he only applied topical application, and you can see from 4 sessions how that went from the top picture to the bottom picture. A little bit more science. This is to show you how colostrum exosomes help with the pigmentation. So if you look at just the brown colored square, the rectangle there, so the top one is a melanin, and it's a melanocyte, it's a normal melanocyte. The second one is a melanocyte when exposed to sunlight. How it happens, it becomes darker. So the same melanocyte, when pre-treated with colostrum exosomes, you can see the darkness is less. So it's not as dark as that. So it doesn't, for things like pigmentation, it's not going to take pigmentation away completely, but it will help in treating the pigmentation by making things lighter. More cases, this is again melasma or hyperpigmentation as well on top of that, and you can see how improvement achieved with 3 sessions. This is a patient with chickenpox scars on the temple, one of mine, and also see the improvements there. This is how I sometimes do a combination treatment here. And you can see how I'm treating acne scars here with a bit of subcision, tumescent anesthesia, and I am doing the subcision. And I use anything, any biostimulator to inject first, straight to help. And you can see that. And then immediately after that, I treat the area with the Purasomes and I microneedle it. So all of this is done in one single session and straight away. Quickly moving on to some hair. Exosomes work, and we get some remarkable results on hair. But how does it work? So we know that firstly, the hair phase, growth phase, has 3 phases or 4 where you read, and growth, rest, and shedding phase. So firstly, what it does is it prolongs the growth phase of your hair growth cycle. So when this growth phase is prolonged, basically that means that there's more time for anything that is injected or treated to work on the dermal papilla cells. And it helps to grow the hair longer, thicker, and more denser as well. What was interesting on the left-hand side with the colored graphs is that even in presence of DHT, when you treat it with colostrum exosomes, you're still going to see proliferation of these dermal papilla cells. So that is an indication that it's effective in things like androgenic alopecia. More studies on hair, which is a good article to read. So this is the hair product. It has they all contain 20 billion exosomes with 200 milligrams of 20 growth factors. For hair product, the amount of HA is slightly lower because we don't really need that much HA for it. But in addition, it has all the vitamins and also some things from turmeric as well. So let me show you some of our pictures from hair. You can see the before and after. There's no shining, there's no play of light and shadows with hair. It's clearly easy to see, yes, it's there or not there. And this is after 1 session, apparently. This is one of my patients, 3 sessions for alopecia areata. And you can see the surrounding area also improved after the 3 sessions. So it's one of our first patients here in the UK. And when we used to combine this with PRP, over time, I've now stopped unless patient demands it or unless there's a specific reason. So I find that I'm getting results. You can see the results clearly here. And this is from Spain. You can see we get a lot of results from Turkey as well. And why that's important is because Turkey is a big center for hair transplant. So they tend to use it prep, or sometimes even post-transplant about 5-6 months after to sort of complete the whole treatment there as well. I am just going to go through all these hair things quickly because it's quite a lot. And here you can see, I mean, the improvement is clearly there to see. This is another study which is done across Canada. It was done by multi-center study where they looked at 25 patients having identical treatment. So they all did the 3 sessions of full vial, microneedle with dermapen, and 4 weeks apart. And clearly, I think all, barring one person who dropped out, all 24 showed excellent results. And I'm not showing you all, but just a few of them across Canada. I think they're waiting to publish these results. Yeah. So some of our studies on the Purasomes product itself. So I've told you about the NC150, and this is a study. These were presented at IMCAS earlier this year. So I'll just quickly look through and tell you some of the salient features. This first one on the left-hand side is the NC150, and this shows the proliferation in 24 hours and 48 hours at a cell line, and as well as the scratch test healing that we looked at. The second one is on the hair and scalp complex. Here it was compared with other exosomes, and you can see here that the amount of growth factors in the colostrum exosomes was much more. And the bottom left-hand side, you can see the germination area, which is the yellow area, is the most expanded area, is again from the colostrum exosomes when compared to the other parts of it. And again, at the single hair levels, you can see that the length as well as the density of these hairs were much more when treated with the hair and scalp complex. Again, the hair and scalp complex was compared with other exosomes coming from callus extract or with other plant-derived ones. And one of the main things here, like I was saying in the beginning of my presentation, was the size of the exosomes. The size of the exosomes from colostrum were, as expected, less than 200 nanometers, whereas the ones from the plant, you could not really get a size because they were clumped together because they were larger in size. And when you looked at the length of hair follicle and proliferation, you can actually see that it was much more when treated with the hair and scalp complex. The right-hand side is when we compared on two cell lines, keratinocytes and fibroblasts, and this is compared with synthetic exosomes. And again, you can see the proliferation on both cell lines was higher with colostrum containing than the ones which were synthetic exosomes coming in. This is a NC150, which was compared with exosomes coming from rose, centinella, and euphorbia. And again, the diameter of the sizes, you can see how the colostrum exosomes were much smaller, whereas the ones coming from the rose and centinella was a larger there. Similar results on the keratinocytes and fibroblasts, again, more proliferation, which was seen with the colostrum exosomes. This is a new product of ours, which is the intimate rejuvenation complex. And you can see here both cell lines, vaginal epithelial cells, as well as the fibroblasts, again shows, as we said, there's more proliferation on both of these cell lines. And there's several more on the website of the company, which you can access. So for the last 5 minutes or so, I just wanted to tell you something more. So this is all that we've spoken about Purasomes, but there's more to this, yes? So the true regenerative medicine starts with wellness from within, okay? So it's the natural healing force, like Hippocrates told us, is the greatest force in getting there. And we know the potency and the power of the colostrum. We know that, and it is the gut health is linked to everything, every system, every organ in our body. And here we are, the potent powerhouse for what can control our gut health. So there's common features. It doesn't surprise you that people with skin diseases or inflammation have a problem with the gut. So treat the gut in order to help with the treatment of the skin. Telomere is the other important thing. Everyone knows what a telomere is. It's the end part of a chromosome, which is what is keeping our cells active and in a position to divide. Okay. As we grow older, these telomeres become shorter and shorter, and the cell division becomes, as the cell divides more, and then there becomes damaged cells and eventually death. So how do we target this? Is we can actually target this with some colostrum supplements. Okay. So this is a formulation. It comes in a bottle. It is naturally and ethically sourced, the same source as what I've just shown you. And it's a sublingual spray that you use under your tongue 2 times a day in order to help your gut health as well as to help improve your telomeres. In addition to the colostrum, it also contains a Moldovan dragon extract, astragalus, which is one of the oldest known supplement known. And then we have Icelandic blue spirulina, which has got a lot of press lately about its antioxidant, etc. So each bottle is worth for up to 2 months. You need to use 3 puffs 2 times a day, or however you want to divide that. It's easy to do. And as I mentioned, it's a glass bottle. So there's no problems about taking this with breakfast, lunch, dinner. There's no gut absorption because it goes straight into the systemic circulation through a spray into the under the tongue. So hallmark of aging is always the telomere. Telomeres, as they shorten, is what happens, and then eventually your cell dies. And so this is what it targets. And why do we know that? Because the colostrum's already been proven to decrease these telomeres from shortening. So it also helps by prevention of bacterial growth, enhance activity of the immune system, and neutralization, and help with wound healing. So something that's going to work from within. And like I mentioned, in addition to that, astragalus, which has been around from the 2006 BC, and it's been known for usage for everything from anti-inflammatory to antioxidant and all of that together. These are some of the studies that are there for age reversal with telomeres, with both the astragalus as well as the colostrum. Icelandic spirulina, also an excellent product, which has helped to add to this. And it's a very difficult product to source, the Icelandic blue spirulina. So they've managed to really do well for that. We know all of these, and you can see and read this anytime and everywhere. So nothing new there. Finally, I think my last 1 or 2 slides, and I'm on time. So this is on this Excel supplement. We actually did some studies on it, and we can actually see how. So all of those things that I've been saying are proven in terms of the fibroblasts a proliferation is shown to be higher when you take a supplement. Plus, they also did the assay to check these lengths of these telomeres. So someone who's taken the Excel supplement, and you can see that the lengths were smaller, or it didn't become any more shorter when you have had the supplements with the Excel. And this is the study on colostrum and telomeres, which is there as well to aid. So last slide, which is it's a foundation, exosomes and foundation of regenerative medicine. So it's a targeted tissue repair. Our aim here is to support cellular renewal, reduce the inflammation. And if you get all of those things done from the outside and you treat your gut, you're then getting complete internal harmony with this whole thing. Thank you for your attention, and we're happy to look at some questions. Thank you.
Tusind tak, Mr. Dr. Anoob. Thank you, Dr. Anoob, for attending and holding this incredible webinar for the Norwegian clients. We will, of course, have all the products available on our site. We can take any questions from the attendants. You can also contact us by phone, email after the webinar. We will follow up all clinics that has registered today. The reports and scientific documents that has been shown will also be available to share. Tusind tak alle sammen for dere deltog på webinaret sammen med oss i dag. Vi må jo huske at hvis det noen spørsmål her på tampen, så som det kommer opp her, må dere trykke Q&A-knappen nederst på skjermen for å stille et spørsmål. Hvis det ikke noen spesielle spørsmål, så ber jeg om at dere eventuelt retter de senere til oss her da.
Okay, so question I have, would use of exosome be a problem for people with milk intolerance? Good question, Irina. So what happens during the process of filtration is that lactose is actually removed, most of it. So for patients with lactose intolerance, no, it doesn't become a problem. You can use these Purasomes, it's not a problem at all. And in addition to that, remember, lactose intolerance is not a skin manifestation. It's like more of a gut thing. And because you're using this externally, so there's double precautions that you already have there. So no, that's fine to use. In fact, there's a rare condition called cow's milk allergy, which is incredibly rare, and it would have been picked up as they've grown old, young at a young age. That's the only time where you need to be careful with, but people with milk intolerance is fine.
Tusen takk skal du ha, Irina.
Why is exosomes better? Irina, another question. Okay, PRP is very variable. Your PRP will be different from mine, will be different from Jonas or anyone else. It would depend on your health, how things are, and it also depends on how well you're able to extract the growth factors from the PRP. So whereas with the colostrum exosomes, you're giving a guaranteed growth factors which have been tested from cow's milk there. So in an ideal situation where you can guarantee that the number of platelets that you can get or platelets extracted and the growth factors extracted, then maybe. But otherwise, I think because of the variability, this is far more superior. Catherine, hi Catherine. Two questions, okay? Why we can't use exosomes by injections, okay? And exosomes will be destroyed by heat. What we need to think about combination with medical laser. Really good question. Okay. The reason you can't use it by injections officially or legally is because it's still considered as a cosmetic device product, not a medical device. We're in the process of obtaining the license for medical device, in which case then it can be, though unofficially people are using it by injections. And the second thing is, yes, it gets denatured by temperature above 34, 35 degrees Celsius. So when you're combining it with medical laser, as long as it's applied post laser topically, that's fine. You're not using it alongside the laser. So when applied to the skin after laser, you will find that it really decreases your downtime and improves and quickly healing. Also, when you have to think about heat is when you use this in combination with things like RF microneedling. You just have to wait for the skin to cool before you apply it. It doesn't take very long. Usually by the time you move and see and you put it back on, that should be fine.
I think we covered everything well.
Well, excellent. I hope you have excellent results for your patients with the use of Purasomes. I think this whole whether you like it or not, regenerative medicine is here now, and this is a wholesome thing where you have something that you can use from the outside, and in combination with the supplements and all of that, you're doing remarkably